Tomorrow I'm going to run my first 15 kilometers as training. Not my first 15 kilometers I ever ran, but the first 15 kilometers as training. Whew. A little bit nervous how exhausted I'm going to be afterwards, because 14 kilometers definitely like destroys me sometimes. But yeah, no, like it's going to be good. I wonder if the 8.5 kilometer race that's coming up in December, how much more improved I have over last year. And I hope I don't get stitches again like last time. That was annoying. But okay. Now we're gonna read the most dangerous video game. The most dangerous video game is an addicting one. Oh god, there's a lot coming up. Hey, safe and highly rated. Man, we are getting some gold today, apparently. What's the first one again? Oh yeah, I mean, Human Food Pyramid is pretty good too, though. Like, no, like so far, the first three SCPs that we had, pretty goddamn solid. They're all pretty good. One copy of SCP-1633 is to be stored on a standard DVD-ROM in a secure storage locker inside 15, along with all supporting documentation and ancillary materials. Individuals wishing to run tests on SCP-1633 must submit a request in writing to head researcher Dr. Berger. Testing will only be conducted with on-site computers which meet all requirements laid out in document SCP-1633-HS-1. This includes, but is not limited to, a processor capable of at least 1.3 GHz, 6 GB of hard drive space, and absolutely no network connection capabilities. These computers may be used for extended testing periods up to 6 months, but the hard drive must be wiped and all components destroyed at the conclusion of testing. No individual save file may be played beyond the end of the Act 3 in the game storyline without specific authorization by Dr. Berger. Prior to this point, the save game and accompanying .ptd file must be erased. Okay, let's see what happens in this most dangerous video game. SCP-1633 is a computer game created, I mean, technically, Sword Art Online was one of the most dangerous video games. When it comes to, like, if you think about it, like, the idea of, like, you die in a game, you die for real, that's definitely the most dangerous video game you can ever ask for. It's a computer game created by the now defunct independent game studio. The copy in Foundation possession is a beta version of the game. The core gameplay is relatively complete, but there are numerous incomplete aspects. Certain art assets are missing. There are various graphical issues. The music is either missing or just placeholder music, and so forth. See document BV1 for a list of known bugs and missing elements. As this version of the game was compiled 2 days before the Foundation raided the offices on 2010, it is presumed that this is the most complete version of the game in existence. So there are some incomplete versions as well. Okay, the source of the anomalous properties of this game, as well as major selling point in the game's pre-release advertisements, are so-called tactical heuristic algorithms. After a player saves their game and quits, a background process will begin running on the player's computer. Okay, that does not sound consensual. This process, while consuming a large portion of the computer's resources, is not in itself harmful to the functioning of the computer and can be forcefully closed at any time. This will prevent the creation of a PTT file. When the process completes, either a new file is created in the same folder as the player's saved game with the file extension PTT, or an existing PTT file is updated. According to the supporting documentation, the file extension stands for player tactical data. Yeah. When a player loads an existing save game with an associated PTD file, enemies in the game will be more intelligent and effective, with the increase approximately proportionate to the total amount of time spent playing. That sounds like Dark Souls. Just kidding, no, it doesn't. But isn't that like a game that like where the enemies get smarter the longer you play because they find out what your tactics are? For example, if you do a lot of headshots and start wearing like, I think like Sniper Elite does that, right? Like if you go for headshots all the time, they start like wearing like stronger helmets. I'm not sure if Sniper Elite does that, but some game does it. If a player attempts to load a save game created by a different player, the game will pause after several minutes and prompt the player to load their own file, or start a new game rather than use someone else. It is not thought to be an anomalous effect, rather the game pattern recognition capabilities are such that even small differences in playstyle will be interpreted as a player attempting to use a different saved game. So far, though, this all sounds pretty much like not really anomalous. It sounds pretty much like it's scanning the player's computer and data, which again, like, you know, not very legal, but like it sounds like something that a game nowadays can do. Initially, the fucking games back then did that with fucking Metal Gear Solid 1. They just scanned the memory card and be like, oh, I know which games you played. Now, of course, did it influence the game playstyle? No, it didn't, but I'm just saying, nowadays you could do that. Initially, this will result in a more challenging game experience with the enemies adapting to a player's preferred weapons, strategies, and overall playstyle. Again, there's a game that does that already. However, given enough time, enemies become aware of the existence of the player and begin to attack him or her rather than the character in the game. Okay, now that's now that's the problem. Now see that's the issue. Typical progression is as follows. Note there may be significant variation in how long it takes the enemies to adapt to a particular player. Roughly speaking, the more capable the player, the quicker the game's intelligence will increase. These times are approximate and based on recorded times for average players. So 2 hours. Enemy lack even basic strategic intelligence will charge the player characters regardless of weapon, equipped, environment, the presence of cover, etc. 5 hours. Enemies begin adapting the tactics to the environment and the weapon they carry. For example, enemies with short range weapons will attempt to move closer to the player characters before attacking. And in engagements as long range they will seek cover. At this stage, enemies are roughly equal in skill to an untrained civilian. 8 hours. Enemies begin to counter an individual player's preferred strategies. For example, they will attack a player who uses long-range weaponry from cover with grenades or splash damage weapons to force them out in the open. They will use environmental features offensively and defensively. For instance, laying traps at choke points or setting up ambushes in kill box zones. At this stage, enemies are roughly equal in skill to a trained human soldier. This is very much like how it is for like people who play like video games. Like, at first, you'll have to learn the game's mechanics. So you're like, oh, like, okay, what can I do? How does the map look like? So like at first, you're like, oh, let me just wander around and figure this stuff out. But then, like, the more you play, the more like, okay, now I know how the map looks like. I can do this and that, this and that. 12 hours. Enemies begin using tactics which affect the player instead of the characters. At some point, enemies seem to become aware that the player characters are being controlled by an outside intelligence and adjust their strategies accordingly. Rather than attacking the player characters, enemies may instead position themselves to block the player's view. Enemies have been seen acting in a glitched manner, repeatedly walking into a wall, performing the same action again and again, freezing in place, waiting until the player dismisses them as a threat, then attacking. Again, that's something that we kind of do nowadays, like pretending to like, as in like we pretend like as if like a connection failed and our character just like walks into a wall, or just stands still, like, and then next thing you know, once the enemy's like, oh yeah, like, we won't mess with this guy. He's not even here. Like, he's DC. Let's turn around. You might just like. In one play session, enemies use multiple day flash spells in every engagement, varying the pattern and timing each time. A spell which causes a bright, blinding flash of light. Well, so we went from kind of like Call of Duty to like to Final Fantasy-esque stuff, MMORPG stuff. Eventually, they developed a strobing pattern which was highly disorienting to the player and ultimately caused her to suffer a grand mal seizure. And plus 12 hours, enemies begin attacking the player psychologically. Specific modes of attack have varied widely as the game tailors its attack to each player's psychological makeup. Facing a player who micromanaged his character with a fine degree of control, enemies use attacks which did little or no damage but caused the character to become dazed, a state which temporarily disrupts the player control. However, rather than attack the dazed character, the enemies simply surround them in the crowd, continually using dazed attacks to prevent the player from doing anything. The subsequent near-total loss of control has a noticeable effect on the player's ability to focus. In another example, enemies kidnapped one of the player's characters and quickly dragged him off-screen. Later in the event, the player discovered the corpse of his character on a makeshift altar, being continually attacked by a group of enemies. This had no further effect apart from a continual blood splatter graphic being applied to the room's floor and wall, but visibly disturbed the player. Yeah, I mean, I'd be like, what the fuck's happening in this game? Look how many footnotes this has also. We only read what, 7? And there's 15? God damn. No major improvements in intelligence have been known beyond 12 hours. It is theorized that this represents the upper level of ability for the game's enemies, unless they are directed by the sentient entity. See document DX12 for further information. And now there's going to be a lot of game information. SCP-1633 is a third-person squad-based action RPG. Oh, so it's an RPG. Okay. Played using the mouse and keyboard. The player characters are visible on the screen, with the player seeing the game from an elevated perspective. The player controls a squad of 4 characters, which direct control over one character at a time, and command menu to control the other 3. Development notes indicate that the game was intended to have a cooperative mode in which up to 4 players would each control up to 4 squad members. This feature is not present in the build held by the Foundation. Each character has a different speciality. The marksman uses long-range weapons. The alchemist has access to potions and chemicals with various effects. The rogue can move stealthily and assassinate enemies, and the thug has greater health than the other characters and does more melee damage. Experience gained from killing enemies and completing objectives can be used to upgrade various skills and attributes of the characters. The game is set in a steampunk world populated by various fantasy races: humans, dwarves, orcs, goblins, etc. Very Final Fantasy. Steam-powered and clockwork technology exists alongside magic. Urban areas are primarily modeled after Victorian-era London. The player characters are a band of criminals who have been recruited by the Archduke of Bodrick to investigate a theft. Over the course of the game, they discover that an ancient godlike entity called Krithna is attempting to escape from millennia of imprisonment and devour the world. Testing logs. Oh god, there's a lot of this. Oh, no, that's not that much. Test number 1. Junior researcher Ross. Ross was an avid and experienced video game player. His eagerness to test the SCP, which caused him to break with procedure and skip the class testing, has been noted on his record. Man, we got a lot of Foundation members not following the orders or the system. Observation: after 47 minutes of regular gameplay, Ross began attempting to discover glitches or exploits in the game engine in order to complete the game more quickly. He found several, including a method of moving his character 33% faster than normal and a way to use skill multiple times in a row without waiting for a cooldown period. Ross ended his first gameplay session after 2 hours 12 minutes, partway through Act 1. On starting up his game the next day, Ross immediately noticed the improved enemy intelligence. His notes indicate that the enemies were using their weapons more effectively and that they were attacking him. Ow. My eye. In groups with mixed attack capabilities. He played for 1 hour and 33 minutes, saving the game at the end of the Act 1. During the third play sessions, enemies began using glitches in the game engine to attack Ross's character. Some of these were exploits that had previously been discovered and used by Ross. Others were discovered independently. Ross was surprised by this, but continued playing for further 2 hours and 50 minutes. Ross' fourth and final play session ended after 7 minutes. He began by chasing a group of enemies into an area he had previously visited. Upon entering a building, 2 enemies dropped a prepared load of crates on the characters in such a way that to drop them beneath the game world. In this area, the game physics were slightly different, allowing a group of waiting enemies to float Ross' character into an infinite empty space. After several minutes attempting to regain control, Ross quit the game in frustration. So far, not really dangerous, but it sounds very frustrating. Test number 2, D22930. D22930 had extreme anger management issues and was placed in the D-class program following the murder of his girlfriend. And you want to make him play a game that's made to purposely fuck you over? Spectacular, spectacular Spider-Man. I'm sorry. The music's right on, and I thought after saying that, like, oh, you want to let the guy with anger management issues to play a game that's all about fucking you over? I was like, and then the song came out, and I saw to myself, like, that's spectacular. Yeah, spectacular. Okay. D22930's progress through the game was slow and largely unremarkable, fitting the standard pattern closely. He played for a total of 13 hours, 44 minutes with 4 breaks to save and reload the game. Upon loading the game for the 5th time, D22930 found the enemies were no longer attacking his characters. Large groups of enemies would rush towards the characters, drop their weapons and post themselves in postures of surrender. Hands in the air, kneeling, prostrating themselves before the player, etc. D22930 killed these enemies as he had previously until the groups grew so numerous that he was spending several minutes to move on an equivalent of 10 feet. It became progressively more enraged that the enemies were not playing fair and tried running through these groups using the bull rush skill. A non-lethal skill used by the thug to rush forward, pushing aside enemies in the way. Individual enemies that then began attacking his characters always from an angle such that he could not identify the attack in the crowd. He became increasingly frustrated and attempted to break the keyboard, at which point the entire group became hostile and killed his character and masked without weapons. He lost the boys! Get him! One of the SCPs I'm reading is going to be uploaded on my birthday, right? Now I gotta check that out real quick. Because I'm wondering which one. Let me just quickly check that while reading this one. Agent 14, test number 14. Agent, before joining the Foundation, was a member of the military and eventually the Special Forces. So he has extensive real-world experience with small unit tactics. Yeah, but does that help against a video game that can just break the game to kill you? I don't think so. So this one is going to be uploaded on the 30th. No, the last one's going to be uploaded on the 30th. So that means... Okay, so we have the first one on the 31st. Then we skip Thursday. Second one on the Friday. Third on Saturday. Fourth on... Yeah, no, like, okay. First, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, 7th. 7th SCP I'm going to read today will be uploaded on my birthday. Okay, I will say that. Okay, good to know. Which will be, yeah. Gotcha. Okay, after a brief period to acquaint herself with the controls, agent press the wrong button. Proved quite capable with the game, reaching the end of Act 1 in a session of 4 hours and 19 minutes. Upon saving and restarting the game, it began using effective countermeasures to her tactics, including attempting to blend into groups of non-hostile NPCs, placing mines and other traps on major roads, and sniping from multiple elevated positions. Possibility of using SCP-1633 as a means of developing counter-tactics to specific attack modes has been proposed. Like, okay, yeah, sure, I guess. I was like, I'm not sure how much this would help you. You can just do that, like, you can just do like live training for that. I feel like maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's like the same idea of like facing the AI chess player to like learn how to play chess better. Test number 21. D30620. D30620 was chosen because he had experience with commercial video games and showed willingness to test. He was told to beat the game without saving or quitting, although he was permitted to pause the game for breaks and rest periods, and food, water, and sleeping accommodation were provided. The entire test took a total of 13 hours, 31 minutes, with a total of 2 hours, 12 minutes used by D30620 for breaks. No observable increase in enemies' intelligence was noted throughout the game. Glitches and missing elements were seen more frequently as D30620 progressed through the game. Presumably this is because later levels were not as complete as earlier levels. Dialogues in all sequence was identical to the most complete game script in ancillary documents. On beating the final boss, Kurthna, the game began to play an ending animatic but crashed. Following the crash, the game created a PTD file associated with the finished game. The process took several hours long than expected based on the time necessary to create and update previous PTT files. And the file was also larger than expected by an order of magnitude. D30620 was ordered to begin a new game using the New Game Plus option from the main menu. Using this completed game file, on choosing his option, the screen displayed a seemingly random pattern of black and white pixels. Visually is similar to the television static. Immediately after seeing this image, D30620 went into a catatonic state and was unable to be revived. It was later terminated as per standard protocols. The image did not have any anomalous effects on other viewers. It has been added to the associated documents and can be viewed by any researcher with proper clearance. So that's why it's the most dangerous game, because either you won't be able to finish the game because it kills your character in such a way that's like impossible to beat it, or you do beat it and then you try the New Game Plus. I mean, what happens if you try the New Game Plus like immediately after beating it? Does that still happen, or do you have to like? I guess like there's no indication that he stopped the game and then tried it again. He started New Game Plus and then it killed him. Recovery. This is a long one. Junior researcher Ross, an avid gamer, has been following the progress of the game studio from some time. On 2010, a staff member on the official studio forums reported that of the testers had quit within the past week, citing various personal reasons. Curious about the sudden loss of staff, Ross obtained the personal information of the testers and got in touch with them, claiming to represent a law firm hired by one of those testers interested in starting a suit against the studio for inhumane working conditions. Information gathered in this way suggested potential anomalous effect, but was not sufficient to justify intervention. 2 weeks later, on 2010, the body of Gregor Tillman was discovered in his apartment after an apparent suicide. Tillman's death came to the Foundation attention as he was one of the current testers of SCP-1633. Tillman had been hired shortly after the previous group of testers quit. He had only been employed for 1 week before his suicide. The Foundation quickly took over the investigation and confiscated all evidence, including a build of SCP-1633, which Tillman had apparently made surreptitiously and taken home with him. That's why he died. He illegally downloaded the game. Documents recovered at the scene led to the Foundation raid on the studio under the pretense of investigating financial malfeasance. All materials associated with the game were seized. The studio went bankrupt shortly after. In interviews with the staff of Foundation agents learned that the tactical heuristic algorithms were entirely the work of programmer M.S. Miss S. had quit the studio without notice 1 week prior to the Foundation raid. All staff were given targeted Class A amnestics and released. Miss S. is currently being sought by the Foundation agent. See it then below. Tillman was found hanging from a length of electrical cord tied to a decorative ceiling fixture. Cause of death was asphyxiation. No abnormalities were found in the autopsy. Evidence found at the scene indicated that Tillman had been playing SCP-1633 extensively since leaving up until the point of suicide. I wanted to listen to that song today, so I'm glad it actually came on. A desktop computer found on the scene had been disassembled and various components destroyed with a blunt instrument. Several components, including the hard drive, had been burned in a metal waste basket. Other documents obtained at the scene have been placed in the SCP-1633 file. Tillman's suicide note is of particular interest and has been transcribed below as document DX12. Addendum 2010. A woman matching M.S. physical appearance appeared in a photograph of the staff of the game publisher. Foundation agents moved to apprehend her, but she escaped before she could be taken to containment. Fragments of a code found in upcoming game 2 showed similarities to code in SCP-1633. Agent Phillips infiltrated the company as a new hire and successfully deleted the suspect code without incident. MS is now considered a person of interest and is being actively pursued by Mobile Task Force MU6. Don't hate the player, but wait a minute. I see, that's why I was saying, like, it's currently being... They're currently being... wait a minute. Wait, but... Oh, but Tillman was hanging. Yeah, not her. Okay, yeah. Now I'm getting... I'm getting tired. I can actually feel the exhaustion. So now, document DX... Okay, here we go. This document was recovered from the scene of Gregor Tillman's suicide. It was handwritten on several sheets of lined paper. The hand... Yeah, okay, we're good. I was worried for a second there. It was handwritten on several sheets of lined paper. Her handwriting was shaky and irregular, but was determined to be Tillman's own. In writing this on paper, because I don't think he can learn it. He got everything digital real quick, but I unplugged the router and broke my phone, so I think he's trapped in here, but he won't stop talking all the time. At the start of this job, told me about the tactical algorithms bullshit, but fuck, I've been playing games all my life and I knew I could beat it. The scary shit, I played, I could handle this. Tillman's former supervisor. When I started playing the game, they learned quickly. I kept using sniper rifles and acted like I'm... Okay, I kept using sniper rifles, and after like an hour they learned how to use cover. Then another couple hours and they set ambushes. Then another hour and they started snapping back while having a different squad flank me. After that they figured out how to glitch the physics engine and riot crates at me or duck under the floor. They were learning, but all that was just easy shit. It was evolution. One bit figures something out so it survives longer than the others. It wasn't directed. Sure. After Act 3, Kethner shows up. He's supposed to be his Lovecraft cosmic horror bugfuck crazy monster who can read the player's mind and corrupt your soul and shit. He showed up right after I killed Strick, the blood drinker, the big fucker. He's supposed to have this long speech about how I killed his general on this plane and now he needs to intervene directly or something. But instead he talked about how I was a worthy adversary, but I was cheating because I was on another plane. Oh. Talking to the gamer directly, eh? Kethner wasn't like the other enemy because he wasn't supposed to be. He was supposed to be smart, but he was supposed to know everything, so he did. He had been watching his minions fight me the whole time and he knew everything they did. It wasn't just random mutation anymore, it was planned, it wasn't evolution, it was intelligent design. I brought it home, I had to know more. I'm sorry but I had to. I copied the latest compile and installed it on my home box and brought my save game and the other file with me on the flash drive. It was the same here. He kept talking to me about how I was keeping him from fulfilling his purpose by keeping him trapped in a glass jar. No matter where I went in the game, he kept shouting and ranting. Then he did more. I thought it was just a slowdown in my other programs and drive jogging when it shouldn't be. The next time I played the game, he started talking about how my screenplays, the level did look expunged. Unnecessary information has been removed. In summary, the level enemies have been redesigned along the lines of scene from one of Tillman's unproduced screenplays. All the enemies looked like me. I guess he could see me through the webcam. He started needling me about Jenny, reading me bits of her emails, acting out the breakup. He found the videos of her and started making the enemies talk in her voice. That's psychological torture, bro. There was an ex-girlfriend who had broken up with him several months prior. Then he was everywhere in my computer. I uninstalled the game, but he was still in there. He kept opening documents and typing to me, calling me a foul cheat and a lowly worm and shit, telling me to fight him on the same plane. As soon as I realized he was outside the game, I shut down my route and pulled out the network card, but I don't know if I got to them quick enough. Maybe he got out. I turned the computer off, but he kept turning it back on. I wanted to break it, but I didn't know if that would kill him. Maybe it wouldn't. Maybe it would just let him out. I tried leaving the house, but it was like I could still hear him. I couldn't leave him alone because he might get out or do something else. I can't sleep. Haven't slept since he came out. This was known as potential memetic hazard. However, no experiments into memetic effects of SCP-163 are currently being conducted. I've been here for 3 days and I can't leave. I can't leave him. He keeps telling me to release him, but I can't. I want to kill him, but I don't know if I can. I can't think of any more. I have to kill him before he does anything new. He won't stop talking about it. He won't stop talking. I can't keep thinking. I can't keep going. I'm sorry, I have to go now. I'm sorry. No evidence of the entity Captain was observed in the other digital device in Tillman's apartment. No mention of the name has been found online. At this time, the Foundation believes that the entity referred to in Tillman's suicide note was destroyed along with the computer. Damn, this was a thick boy to read, but a good thick boy. Yeah. I can see why it's considered the most dangerous video game, because like trying to beat it is basically a death sentence. It's just not worth trying to beat this game, because you either go into epileptic shock and death, or you think you go crazy because like some eldritch horror thing is asking you to like fight him on equal plane, so you just think that he's gonna like exit the game somehow.